time if there is a disconnection from my side, kindly forgive me. I anticipate a few such interruptions today due to the climatic conditions. I hope you would cooperate with me. Right. So virtual LAN, we have to see the necessity or the requirement of having virtual LAN. So this slide would help us to know more. What's the motivation behind virtual LAN? We all know what is a LAN, local area network, where all the machines connected to the network have the same network address, or in other words, they share the same address space of a single network. All right. So what's happening when you have the local area network is scaling? Okay, so it increases in size, and we saw yesterday that we can use another switch to connect it so that you can increase the number of devices which can be connected. That's fine. Now when I'm talking about the scaling of local area network, I'm not talking about the single geographical region, but in a multiple geographical region. For instance, on the screen you have got a local area network of computer science and electronics and communication, I suppose EC, and also the triple E department. So there are three different departments which are connected to a switch. All right. Now, what is anticipated, or what is the plan behind it? Whoever is connected to computer science and engineering, computer science building, they are supposed to have the same address space. Similarly, ECE and as well as triple E. And we also have an objective that the communication between these local area networks are restricted. Unless it is exclusively permitted, these people cannot communicate each other. There are multiple reasons, probably the security reason as well, and also on the efficiency side. All right. What is the meaning of efficiency? What am I trying to tell you in terms of efficiency? All right. So when you talk about the local area network, when you talk about a network or subnet, in other words, you all know that when a broadcast message is sent, the messages are sent only to the devices which are connected to the local area network. Hope you remember that. We call it as a broadcast domain. So when this machine in CS network sends a broadcast message, that broadcast message will go only to this level, and it's not supposed to be sent across. It is not necessary. Otherwise, you will create a broadcast storm in the whole of computer networks. Unless the broadcast messages will be exchanged with EC as well as triple E, which they are not going to respond at all because it is not meant for them. Right. Similarly, whatever comes out of EEE need not come to computer science if it is a broadcast message for all its members. Right. So this is another reason why should we have a virtual LAN. All right. And of course, I have spoken about the security and the privacy issue as well. Right. So one of the reasons is when you have a scaling of the network, we require the virtual LAN. You are not able to continue with what's happening with LAN. Second one, due to the administrative issue, I think there was an animation. Yeah, you could see a machine which was available with computer science, right? So it is actually part of CS machine. Now it is connected to another network called triple E, right? So it's connected to triple E network due to some reason. Okay, what the reason could be anything, the administrative reason, right? So now it is connected. So what is the effect of it? What is supposed to happen? All these machines and this CS machine should belong to same network. Yes, that's what's shown in the graphics. You could see all the machines in the computer science, and this specific machine which was just moved out of computer science and connected to triple E, they belong to the same network, same local area network, right? So how is it possible? This is also possible with the help of virtual LAN, right? That's what's shown here. The CS user moves his office to EE, physically attached to triple E switch, but wants to remain logically attached to CS. He is part of CS network, though he is in the triple E block. Right now, he also needs to be part of this specific local area network, which means whatever the broadcast message which are sent by any of these devices in the local area network must reach them, and vice versa. Right. So these are the reason why should we go for the virtual LAN, and your faculty in the networking lab would have explained to you how to configure the virtual LAN. You all are comfortable with that. Let's see if time permits, we can do some configurations as well. All right, so how are we going to achieve? You can see on the right hand side graphics, which I have taken from the presentation by the authors of the textbook Cross and Ross. I have adopted that here. Okay, it is actually port based virtual LAN. Points are very clear. Switch ports are grouped so that single physical switch operates as multiple virtual switches, right? So this is really an interesting one, which gives a clear idea of what a virtual LAN is, right? So you got a single switch. This is a switch which has got on the screen has got 16 ports, 1 to 16, and the machines are connected to that. 1 to 8 are from EEE, and 9 to 15 are from CS, right? Now, what's the logic? Logically, this is the physical connection, but what happens logically, they operate as separate switch, they operate as separate networks. You got the logic. And obviously, if you have a machine here from EEE block wants to communicate with the machine in CS, obviously they require a router. All right, so that's the router on the stick configuration which you all would have done earlier. So that logically it works as two different switches. So is it only two different? No, you can go for n number. I think you can create 1020 to 23 such VLANs from a switch. Only thing is whether you have that many ports available with that switch, right? So you can have multiple switches. Probably if two switches are connected through another switch to a router, now these two switches belong to the same network. Can we make them to work as a different virtual LAN? Yes, it is possible. We can make them as different VLANs, though they are connected to a switch and then in turn with the router, right? Now, what's happening here? Switches supporting the VLAN capabilities. This indicates that the non-managed switches are not supporting the virtual LAN, right? So only the managed switches are supporting the virtual LAN. Can be configured to define virtual VLANs over a single physical LAN, right? So that's what is shown on the right hand side. You have got a single LAN because it all belongs to the same switch. All these machines which are connected belong to the same network. But once you configure the virtual LAN here, this set and the another set can be treated as separate networks or separate LANs, right? This is the theoretical portion. Moving on. How can we do the traffic isolation? This is another interesting thing. This is what going to counterattack the broadcast DOM, right? So traffic isolation. So frames from port numbers 1 to 80 can reach only port numbers 1 to 8. In other words, whatever is initiated from this virtual LAN will be reaching only the corresponding virtual LAN unless you configure some special configuration using the router, which you are going to see. Similarly, whatever is communicated among them only will reach. So if port number 16 is connected to a machine which initiates a communication to a machine which is connected to port number 1, it's not going to reach unless you do this special configuration as they have mentioned. All right. So it also can define the VLAN based on the MAC address endpoints rather than switch port. But in our laboratory and in our exercise, we are not doing that. Not MAC based. We are not experimenting that. We are doing based on the switch port. So at any time, this particular port is responsible, is connected to this specific virtual LAN. All right. And interestingly, the ports also can be dynamically assigned among the VLANs. For instance, initially port number 1 belongs to VLAN EEE, and port number 9 to 16 belong to CS. And after some time during the virtual membership, during using the dynamic membership, you can make this machine which is connected to port number 1 to be part of CS without making the configuration by the administrator. Okay, as I have said, how can we forward the packet among the virtual LAN? Now there should be a question, sir. Our objective was to divide them into different virtual LAN. Then what's the necessity for making them to interact? There are some reasons when the office machine of computer science may have to interact with the office machine of EEE, right? So in that case, you cannot isolate them entirely, and you are supposed to, on some cases, you are supposed to communicate to each other, and then in that case it's going to be logically routing between the networks. All right, you require a router to do that. So forwarding the packets between the VLANs can be done via the routers. All right. Okay, in practice vendors sell combined switches plus router, that is called layer 3 switches which are available, which we are not normally talking. in our classes, but interested people can explore more on layer 3 switches, a very interesting um, hardware component. All right. Can we do this VLAN spanning multiple switches? So far, whatever we have spoken is take a switch, right? So in that switch, the 1 to 8 ports are connected to one network, one virtual LAN. Port number 9 to 16 belong to another virtual LAN. That's what we have been talking so far. Sir, is it possible to have to create this virtual LAN spanning more than one switch? It is possible, right? So on the screen, you could see there are two switches connected. One is of 16 port switch, the other one is of 8 port switch. So in the 16 port switch, there are three networks created. In the single port switch, again, there are three virtual LANs are created. Now you have got three virtual LANs, but there are two switches, right? So whatever is shown by dark color, probably the black color or the dark color, belong to one network, all right? But that can belong to a network. But on the topology, it is used to connect these two because there should be a physical connection existing between these two. So one interface is dedicated for it. Never mind, you can have n number of VLAN as long as you have sufficient number of physical ports available with the switch. Okay, so to do that, you should have the trunk port. All right, so these two switches are connected. What is a trunk port? Nothing, sir. It is a normal UTP cable or STP cable or the fiber optic cable which is connecting the switches based on the interface of the switch. That's okay. Then why is it called trunk? Very simple. Trunk ports are configured, or trunk ports are the trunk links, in other words. Okay, the trunk links are the links which carry the packets belonging to all the VLANs as per our configuration. Okay, on the net screen we have got two VLANs. One virtual LAN is shown with amber color or probably orange or reddish color. The other one is shown with light blue color. All right, so these two are these two separate VLANs. So if you have to permit the packets to be trafficked or to be transmitted between these VLANs, you need to have the link as the trunk link, which means the ports which are carrying this will be the trunk ports. Okay, which I'll be explaining to you with the demonstration. All right. So frames forwarded within the VLAN, okay, between the switches can be 802.1 frames because it's not going to accept it. For that, you should have another one. It's the encapsulation protocol 802.1Q. Okay, this is IEEE standard protocol 802.1Q. Is a specific piece of information which sits exactly in the Ethernet frame. Do I have a screen for it? Um, yes, here, right? So you got, this is your 802.1 Ethernet frame. You have learnt it in the earlier class. And what happens? We have the type field where the 802.1 frame is inserted, right? So what are the things? It contains a 2-byte tag protocol identifier, right? And the tag control information which are used by the encapsulation. So normally if your switches are supporting these VLAN capabilities, they can understand this encapsulation as well. Very simple, sir. A normal 802.1 protocol is not going to 802.1 or 802.5 is not going to support it. You need an encapsulation, which means packets from different VLANs can be combined in a single trunk, single interface, so that it can be transferred. So you need to configure this encapsulation in that particular interface so that the packets belonging to more than one VLAN can be transferred over that link, right? So before getting into multi-protocol label switching, I prepared a small presentation to you to make. Let this be here. What have I configured is very simple. I have only configured VLANs, right? So which means machine here, this machine and this machine, they belong to same VLAN. That's what I have configured. I have given the IP address also like that. You can see this machine is given 192.168.1.1 with the mask 24. This is given 192.168.1.2 with the mask 24, right? So how have I configured the VLAN? I can show you. Not here, I'm sorry, I have to go to the switch. What am I doing? FA01 is connected to FA0, I'm sorry, this machine, and FA11 is connected to the another machine, FA21 is connected to the third machine. Similarly, the configuration is made here as well. Now, what configuration have I made? I have made the configuration such a way that there are three VLANs created on this topology, right? One is, this is one of the VLANs, okay, VLAN 1, this is VLAN 2, and the third one is VLAN 3. I can make a small note. So, VLAN 1 and VLAN 2 and VLAN 3. All right, so which means, can I copy this? Okay, this is again VLAN 1, this is VLAN 2, this belongs to VLAN 3, right? Now, what happens? What have I done? I have gone to the switch. I went into the switch. I made the configuration. Guys who are listening patiently and interestingly, please note that this is the first time in our computer networks we are configuring the switch. Yes, you have done it in the laboratory, but you should not forget that so far we have not made any configuration on the switch, especially on the routing side. But when you talk about the virtual LAN, we need to do the configuration. So what have I done? I can explain that with the show running configuration. Okay, you can see the show run configuration on the screen, which helps you to know what's happening. Look at that. You have got fast Ethernet 00. Fast Ethernet 00 is here, right? So this fast Ethernet 00, I have assigned switch port access to VLAN 1. But before that, we should know whether the VLANs are created. So I'll give show VLAN. Is it the command? I'll say show VLAN brief. Yes, so show VLAN brief is the command which I have used. All right, and I have created three VLANs: VLAN 1, VLAN 2, and VLAN 3. Normally, VLAN 1 is a native VLAN which I have used it for this purpose. But if you don't assign any of the interface, they belong to VLAN 10, VLAN 1. So my recommendation is don't go for VLAN 1, 2, or 3. You better go for VLAN 10 or 20 or 30. I'm sure in your laboratory also you would have done it, because VLAN 1 is native VLAN. By default, all the interfaces belong to same VLAN. That's the reason. Though I do not assign, you can see FA21, 41, 51, except 31, because 31 I have configured as a trunk link. All the others are VLAN 1, okay, and VLAN 2 you have got FA11, and VLAN 3 FA01. A similar thing you can see happening in this switch also. I can show that. Enable show VLAN brief. Hope the same thing happens here. Yeah, here also you have got FA11, sorry, VLAN 1, 2, 3 created, and the various interfaces are assigned to this. This is port-based VLAN, right? And what happens to this FA31? Can we see that show? Do we have show IP interfaces? Yeah, show IP interface FA31. Let's see whether it's not there. Show IP interface. All right, so this administrator internet protocol is processing disabled. That's okay. I couldn't see that. Show IP protocols interface brief is there, but that's not useful here. That's okay. What have I done? I have made this fast Ethernet 3.1 as a trunk link. So how did I do the trunk link? I can show using the show running configuration if I am correct. Shall we see? Yeah, you can see the interface fast Ethernet 3.1. It says the switch port mode is trunk. All the other are switch port mode is access, right? So now what am I trying to say? I have made the interface FA01 to access only VLAN 3 in this topology, which means VLAN 2 information, one information cannot be sent across. Similarly, this is configured only for VLAN 2, and this is only for VLAN 3. And this one is permitted to take all the VLANs, right? And no wonder FA01 and FA11 ports of this switch also is configured as a trunk interface, so that it will be able to carry the other VLAN database. Now there should be a question. Why should they be configured as a trunk link? I can show you as a demonstration. I'll go to the simulation mode, and I want to see only ICMP packet. All right, so I don't want anything else. And yeah, I take a packet and I send this communication here. You can see the ICMP packet gets ready. I permit this to go fast. All right, so a little faster, and you can see it goes here and it goes there, right? So, and you also get the response. All right, so you also get the response for it. This works right now. Can we try sending a packet from 2 to 2? Okay, I have said these two belong to the same virtual LAN. Whether it is successful? Yeah, this is also successful, right? So this should give you a hint that this switch is configured in such a way that it carries the VLAN 1 packet, VLAN 2 packet. Though I haven't demonstrated, it will carry VLAN 3 packet as well, because I have configured it as trunk link, right? Now these three machines are belonging or connected to the same switch. Shall we see whether they are able to talk to each other? Yeah, I know this is going to happen. Right, so these two machines are not going to exchange any packet information. The reason is, yeah, buffer is full. I know this error is going to come. Please bear with me. So you can see this. Okay, default gateway is not set. You can see the destination IP is 192.168.3.1. It is not in the same subnet, and it is not the broadcast address. Hence, the default gateway is also not set, and the device drops the packet. All right, so which means you cannot make these two to talk to each other. At least you know this packet has to go here. All right, that's not going to happen. Right, so this interface is not going to take it up, and the packet also is not going to forward. But once you have a destination MAC address, a destination IP address belonging to the same network which is existing here, you are able to send the packet across, right? So, and again, shall we try once more with this and this? That is also not going to happen, right? So I say play. This is not going to happen. I delete it. Okay, again, I have to wait, right? So this is what happening when you have the VLANs configured, right? So they are not going to exchange the packets. They are not going to permit the packets to be exchanged across, because you don't have them as the trunk link, right? So is there any solution for that? We have one. So let me open another packet tracer configuration which I have created. Can I open it? No, I'll open this way. Router on a stick. Yeah. So this is the same topology which we had in the previous one, which we have just seen. But I have just made only one change, that I have created, I have placed a router, and I also have connected a cable here with the router and the switch. And this configuration is router on a stick, which is known to you. You have worked on that, right? So what configuration have I made in the router on a stick? Look at that. Look at that on the screen. The first four rows have the same thing, fast ethernet 00. Look at the MAC address. It has the same MAC address, 00006 2A3A B727, right? So same MAC address, right? And for the fast ethernet 00, sub interfaces are created. Okay, this is the power of your encapsulation. IEEE 802.1q is the encapsulation standard, which I have just presented in the my presentation, right? So I have done the encapsulation. How did I do that? A simple there are few simple steps, but I can show you using the running configuration. Yeah, before that I have to make fast ethernet 00 as node shutdown, you know that, right? So after that, these are the commands. It's not native actually, because this VLAN belongs to one. It shows it is native VLAN. Otherwise, it's not going to show it as a native. Interface fast Ethernet 0/0 is the actual interface name. I have created a sub interface. So interface fast Ethernet 0/0.1 creates a sub interface. Before you assign the IP address to this, you should do the encapsulation. So encapsulation dot one q, then VLAN 1 or 2 or 3. All right. So based on that, I had made that dot slash 0 slash 0.1 belonging to VLAN 1. Logically, for the switch, it will understand, it will assume that there are three interfaces which are available. Okay. Though the cable is one by one cable, it will understand there are three interfaces. Obviously, 192.168.1.254 should be the default gateway for FA01. I'm sorry, the machine, this machine. Okay, that's what I have configured. And no wonder this machine also will have the same default gateway 192.168.1.254. Right. So this is the configuration which I have made. Is it all over? Yeah. So that's the configuration. That is the end of the configurations. Configurations are very simple. Right. Now we can see whether I can transmit a packet from one to other. It is successful. All right. And I send a packet from here to here. It says in progress. Let me try it. It is successful. We can see this in the simulation as well. Again, I go for ICMP. Where is this ICMP? Here. And I permit this packet from here to here. Okay. Now let's see whether transmission is happening. Yes. Please understand what's happening here. This machine is trying to send a packet to this machine. Because they belong to different VLANs, you have to use a router to connect these two VLANs. Though they are connected to the same switch, you could see on the screen as evidence that the packet does not go to this machine directly. It goes to, you can see that it goes to the router, and then the packet is forwarded, right? Though they are the neighbors apparently physically, but logically they are another network. They belong to different network. All right. And permitting this to go ahead, this is the return packet, again goes to the router. So what is the logic behind it? Actually, how it is working, it is assumed that this machine is connected to this router via another switch. That's how logically it is working. Okay, this is between this is called inter VLAN. The packets are exchanged between the VLANs, called inter VLAN routing. This is using a router on a stick. I'm sure you have done it in your laboratory, this configuration, right? So a router on a stick permit this. Let's have another packet here to here, which we tried in the earlier attempt. Goes to the router. Okay, I think there is an ARP. No issue, don't worry. This is not a mistake. This is because of the address resolution protocol, I suppose. Let's wait for this to respond. We'll send the packet once again. I delete it. I do the same thing. We attempted from here to here. So let's permit. It goes there. The initial problem was because of ARP. We may face it once again. No, we don't face it. All right, now you got the response. So this is what your inter VLAN configuration. Okay, intra VLAN, you have to make the links as the trunk. For inter VLAN, you should have a router encapsulated using .1q protocol IEEE 802.1.q. All right, encapsulation, then create the sub interface, put them appropriate IP addresses as default gateway to be configured. Then there you go. Right. So I delete it. I go back to my presentation to finish with multi-protocol label switching. So MPLS is an interesting topic here, but unfortunately we don't have this in detail. If anyone of you are interested in multi-protocol label switching, you can take a separate subject on multi-protocol label switching, or There are papers like internetworking or advanced computer networks, which includes the advanced concepts of your normal IP routing as well as two units for multi-protocol label switching. Or a separate subject also is offered in our department for multi-protocol label switching. So interested people can learn about that. Very interesting one. As an elective, you can learn it. I'll tell you the logic behind multi-protocol label switching is very simple. If you could understand IP routing as the postal system, multi-protocol label switching is very similar to your PIN code. If you get this logic, nothing is complicated in multi-protocol label switching and understanding. In simple, it is MPLS, right? Let me have some discussion about that. So when you have your postal address as the IP routing, should you include PIN number compulsory? Not compulsory, but if you use PIN code, you can make it quicker. No, otherwise they will. If there is a spelling mistake, they will find it difficult to reach the place. If you said 641114, that's the PIN number of Karunya Nagar in Coimbatore, right? So if you use 641114, if you just type in 641114 in Google, it's going to say it's Karunya Nagar Coimbatore, right? PIN number. So that is going to make the life easier. But will your postal system fail if you don't use the PIN code? No, no, no. It's not going to fail, but the performance will be degraded. Okay, it may not reach you properly. It will take little more days or time to reach you, and so on. All right. Second one, is it sufficient to use only PIN code to reach a person? That is not sufficient. Okay, PIN code can be used to reach the place, but the exact postal address is required to reach. So in the same way, when you have multi-protocol label switching, this MPLS is not going to stand alone. All right, MPLS is built on top of the IP routing. So IP protocol is required for MPLS, but MPLS is going to augment or support. All right, it's going to support or fill the gap in the IP protocol or routing protocol, that you will be able to reach, you'll be able to make it little faster. That's all, sir. If you could get this logic, the other 2 3 slides which will talk about MPLS is very simple for anyone to understand. Okay, so what's the scale, what's the goal here? This high speed IP forwarding, all right, is the objective of your MPLS, but not all the routers are going to support. The MPLS capable routers are only going to support it. Okay, and the small variations start here. Instead of the shortest prefix matching, okay, we don't have for a shortest prefix or longest prefix matching. It, the label is going to be fixed. Recall the concept of a virtual circuit which you have studied in circuit switching network, the virtual circuit and virtual circuit identifiers. These VC numbers, VC IDs are going to help you to make your switching very very faster, right? We have learned it in one of the classes. So faster lookup is the primary advantage, and yeah, it borrows the ideas from VC approach, okay, virtual circuit approach, but IP datagram still keeps the IP address. Okay, I said IP routing is mandatory, you cannot run alone, but you build it on top of it. So what's normally happening, you got your Ethernet header and the remaining upper layer protocols. That's what in the data link layer. But with MPLS, what happens? You include little data here. Okay, that is called MPLS header. Nothing different, sir. You're not going to make much change. Does not mean it is running in the network layer, because Ethernet header includes it as a payload. Does not mean that, but yes, it also uses the IP address. So you can argue that it is a layer 3 protocol. Let's have the argument. That is not going to help us, but technologically, MPLS header is placed between our Ethernet header and the IP header, and it also has its own label and other fields. All right. So the second point I wish to draw your attention: packets forward to outgoing interface based only on label value. Okay, it's not going to inspect the IP address. All right, don't you think that this is going to increase the speed? Yes, you look at only the label. You are not going to look at the layer 3, open the header, look at what is happening. No, no such complication. Okay, IP lookup, nothing is happening. Okay, IP is there, IP address is there, right? But label switching is going to make it very faster. Okay, and please remember, when you talk about the IP routing uses only the destination network address to route the packet. All right, but MPLS uses the source and the destination. What's the advantage, sir? When you have the source and destination pair, you can make it faster. For instance, if you have an ambulance which is going on the road compared to other vehicle, it should be given higher priority. We call it as flow. Please recall what we learned in IPv6. We have something called flow label, right? Hope you remember that. Okay. So this flow helps you to improve the speed or to reduce the latency in the network, right? So in the same way, this MPLS also helps you because it maps the source address and the destination address, not only the IP, sir, also it takes the port numbers of source and the port number of destination. By having it creates the label and label ID, we call it as label. Using that, it's going to switch the packet. Okay, a small variation is a tag switching. This is label switching. We also have got multi-protocol tag switching. You can explore that as well. Okay, so MPLS forwarding table is different from IP forwarding. So the flexibility here is MPLS forwarding decisions are differing. Okay, use destination and source address, not only IP but also the port number. We call it as traffic engineering to route the flows. Okay, please remember the traffic engineering are going to help you to improve your quality of service, which means if you have a packet which is very urgent to be sent across the network to the other machine, better go for the MPLS because the flow. What is the flow, sir? For instance, if the source IP is 1111, port number is 100. Okay, I'm just taking for example. Destination IP is 2222. Port number is 200 and 300. Okay, there are two ports running. Now I see that the packets which are flowing out of 1111 with port number 1 going to 2222 port number 2 has got much priority. Then there will be a separate flow will be given. It will be given a priority that this will be given, the ID will be processed very quickly compared to other protocol or other flows. We call it as flow. And the very famous word is traffic engineering. Kindly explore this as well, because they are all not part of our syllabus. So I don't find time to explain to you that. Like, second one, reroute the flows quickly if the link fails. Okay, because you have got pre-computed the paths, backup paths available in your label forwarding table. Okay, MPLS forwarding table, and you can quickly find out the alternate path even if there is a link failure. Okay, that's the advantage of having this. Okay, MPLS versus IP path. It's very simple. Your MPLS path need not follow your IP path. Okay, because your IP routers are different from your MPLS routers. All right. So MPLS routing path to destination can be based on source and destination. Again, the same point is coming again and again. And you also have got the fast reroute, which we have spoken. All right. So MPLS supports modification of your OSPF, ISIS protocols are also, by MPLS rerouting. All right. So this indicates that your basic routing protocols are very important, but you can have your MPLS on top of it. Probably the final slide, how the forwarding is happening. You could see the MPLS forwarding table. All right. When no, look at this. If here these four routers, R1, R2, R3, R4 are MPLS routers. R5 and R6 are not MPLS routers. Okay. We call in this logic, this is ingress router, this is egress router. Assume that after this you got only the IP network, there is no MPLS router. So we call it as a egress. This is called ingress. Okay. In the case of ingress, uh, um, you don't have the in label. For the egress router, you don't have the output label normally. Okay. And if there is no MPLS routers available here. Now in this case, you got your out label. Okay. If you get a packet which is coming with label 10 with the destination A, send it through 0. All right. This is the link with MPLS ID tag or MPLS label 0. And again, for the same destination A, input label is 8, which means out label is 8, which is coming with 8, and you are supposed to send it through 1. Okay, as per the forwarding table. So row first and 3 indicates that for the same network, the packets take different route based on the flow. Okay, 10 is connected to 0, but 8 is connected to 1. That's the logic to route the destination. All right. So I'm done with MPLS. I think I have more. All right. This is what the textbook by Ulles Black, MPLS and Label Switching Network. Very interesting textbook. I invite you to read it online. I was searching for the soft copy, I could not, but our department library and the central library has got adequate books. So I invite you, once you are here in the campus, you can read this to know more about the MPLS and label switching. All right. So thank you so much for your patient listening.